Hello and welcome to Existential Hyperfixation. Here we are after a month or a month and a half since my last video. I have about 10 projects that I've been working on, none of them to completion until I finally got this one and one more actually fully all the way done. I'm just experiencing the hyperfixation part of ADHD lately, and I apologize that it's taken me so long to get this video out. So with that, here we are, getting a project done in a timely manner. And of course, Baldurs Gate 3 just came out 9 months ago, 10 months ago. I don't even know. But this is Karlach from Baldurs Gate 3. I found a fantastic file, a 3D model that I will share in the video description on where to get that. I will tell you, this is my second time assembling Karlach. The first time I assembled her, I put, I don't know, several pieces together incorrectly, and in my efforts to try to correct those mistakes, broke her in several places to the point where I couldn't really fix her. And so I just ended up reprinting. So even with this little bit of chaos that I have in getting this model together, this is 100 times better than it was the first time around. And I will tell you that this model is so gorgeous. The final result on this is one of my favorite things I've ever done. Very, very happy with this. And overall, it printed really well. The file that came with the 3D model is actually a bunch of different models, and I will warn you that it is not safe for work. There are some topless and bottomless poses of Karlach that are included in that. But if that's what you're looking for, this is a great model. So I did the printing, got it all assembled, and then I go through and here I'm just blocking colors out. And as I'm blocking these colors out, I will tell you, this project, I actually printed this the first time, I don't know, 3 months ago probably. My partner is a huge fan of the Baldur's Gate 3 game, as am I. But her favorite character is Karlach. As a matter of fact, she and I have a playthrough that she and I play together where she plays as Karlach. She just loves this character. And I made this specifically for her. And, with Karlach, the character in the game, without giving too much away, Karlach has gone through a lot of personal trauma and comes out of it with just such grace and love for the world that she's able to live in. And I think that's something that we can all kind of aspire to, right? Like something that, I guess, recognizing that we've all got our own traumas and we all have our own things that we've dealt with, and we all have the things that have left permanent scars on us, whether they're physical or whether they're emotional or mental. But learning that we can come through those and we can find a way to live our lives that's the best way for us. And I think that's a lesson that I have to relearn and reteach myself quite frequently. And some people's trauma is much, much worse than others. And I would never, ever want to try to compare my trauma against yours for a whole variety of reasons. But I think the lesson that we can learn from Karlach is that how we respond to that trauma is entirely up to us. So with that, I'm going to paint some fingernails. I have never done anything like this before, and so I thought it would be fun to take the metallic medium that Pro Acryl makes and add it to some dark purple, dark plum, and give Karlach some nice bright metallic purple fingernails. And they came out really cool. I'm really impressed with this. I'm really happy with it. So you can see Karlach all blocked out, and here's where I'm trying to figure out the leather color. And I initially used a like a dark brown, I think, or a golden brown. I don't remember exactly what color I started with. And here I am trying another brown color. And I thought, the initial color was just too same, kind of matchy-matchy with the color of the pants. And I felt like I needed a little bit of pop and contrast. And so I went through all my different colors and was kind of trying to decide and said, you know what, let's try this burnt orange color. This looks, to me, a little bit leathery, but I don't know if this is going to be the right color. And I laid it down, and it looks so great. I was so happy with it. It honestly looks like a very light tanned leather color. And I don't know, for whatever reason, that orange just didn't come into my brain as what should be the right color. So there you can see it all painted up with the orange leather. The crisscrossing on her pants took me so long to do. And there are so many fine details in this model that I appreciated them when they're done, but man, it was just so much to it. It was a lot more than I expected. So here I am. I'm actually putting on a gloss wash over all of the kind of greeny clothing that she wears. And the reason I'm doing this is for two reasons. Number one, it's a lot lighter than it was in my reference photo. So color-wise, I needed it to desaturate quite a bit. And the other thing is, in the reference photos, it is kind of glossy. And so while I wasn't really sure how I was going to do this, was I going to try to do some kind of lighting effect or something like that? Or would it just make more sense to give it a gloss coat? And I decided to test it. I said, worst case scenario, I can always repaint over it. And the gloss brought the color down almost perfectly and gave it the right kind of shine to where it looks like a kind of satiny leather type of material. And so fantastic, super happy with it. The boots and the leather straps on the boots also got a Nuln oil. So I do want to specifically point out, so once I got Karlach done, this is the stone recipe that I use. And if you like the final result, I will put a link to this method or the kind of guide that I use for doing my stone. I've used this method multiple times now. It always comes out looking fantastic. And it is an involved process. There are a lot of steps to it, and there are a lot of different paints and colors and washes that are involved in this. But the end result, if you like it, I will share the link. So it seems a little bit redundant to put a gray base coat down over a gray primer, but it does add a little bit of sheen and a little bit of shine, and just makes it all kind of consistent. So with that gray base coat done, I do a slightly lighter, this is called flat brushing. So I'm working on getting it in the surfaces, but I'm not getting it down in all the pits and cracks and kind of deeper details in this model. And with the gray, I want to cover everything. And then with that color, that I already forgot what color it was, I'm not really covering everything. I'm just kind of doing a targeted approach. And you would use that if you had a different kind of a model, you would do it on a more highlighted area, so upper areas or areas that get more light. And then come back with an even further, reduced application, or more highlighted of that 2:1 to 1 mixture. And then I do the Agrax Earthshade wash over the whole thing. And washes, especially on flat surfaces, can come out really streaky, and so you kind of have to be careful. But in this scenario, you actually don't. It doesn't matter because you're going to put so much over top of it. You see my application here is very streaky, but it doesn't matter. So get an old brush, do these next few steps with the gray and the kind of progressively lighter shades of tan or brown. And it's just kind of a partial application. And again, with the old brush, you want those bristles to kind of be all over the place. I rotate the brush a lot in my hand when I'm doing all of this kind of stippling work, just to give it so it's not kind of a consistent shape when it goes onto the model. And so as you rotate it, you're hitting different parts of the brush, and you're hitting it from different angles, and it varies how those kind of stippled sections go on, and so they don't all look all matchy. The overall goal is that once you get through all four of these colors, you should have, for me, 75 to 85% coverage over the whole model. You don't want 100% because then you're going to cover up every single thing you've done before. But you'll see that with that kind of 75 to 85%, you've got a good amount of coverage with these kind of stone colors. But there is still some of that, the previous layers showing through. And then this is the final step. So it's just 3 different washes. It's kind of a Reichland flesh shade. So it's a brown, and then a sepia, and then a green wash that are heavily watered down. And I've done this before where I didn't water them down enough, and I will tell you that it didn't look as good. It doesn't look like you can see anything hardly when you're doing this step, especially with the sepia. The sepia, at least to my eyes, just kind of almost looks clear when it's going on, but the final effect is so good. So here the stone effect on the column and the column sections and the rocks and stuff is done at this point. I'm doing a kind of a dark blue. This is Payne's Gray, as kind of a base coat on these bottom tiles. And then I'll come through and do not a full stone effect, just kind of a series of dry brushes. So a heavy dry brush with this neutral gray, and then a light dry brushing of the bright neutral gray. This neutral gray, actually, I put down 2 or 3 coats. So it was quite a bit of this, and then came back with that bright neutral gray. I'm using a very small dry brush here. I could definitely go a lot bigger, but I was trying to not hit all of the details. I was trying not to hit Karlach's boots. I was trying not to hit the axe or the stones nearby. I was just trying to keep it in the areas that I wanted. So I made it a little bit harder on myself. Once I did that bright neutral gray, I wanted to bring some of the same tones that I used on the column back into some parts of the model, and mostly in this kind of pile of debris around the base of the column. But I do bring that around, I don't know, not necessarily everywhere, but to quite a bit of this base. But this is more of a stippling than an actual dry brushing. You can see my hand. This footage is all sped up, but you can see my hand kind of back and forth, up and down, doing that stippling motion. And the brush is a little bit more wet than it probably would be if I was just doing a dry brushing. But the idea is this is more of kind of a sandy color. And then I'm bringing in this new, if you've never used this, it's essentially a product made by ProAcryl to kind of mimic the effects that you get with an oil wash, where you get down into cracks and crevices, but then you can come back and wipe it off. And in this specific scenario, this is a fairly new product for me. I've used it a couple times now, but in this specific scenario, I let it dry probably a little bit longer than I should have. I gave it about 15 minutes. Before I came back with a couple of shop towels, and actually ended up, I started with dry shop towels, and then I came back, I actually put some water on those and let them, because it just needed, so it's dry after 15 minutes, but it's still wet enough that you can remove. And that's the whole point of it, is that you're putting this product down with the intention of removing large parts of it. And I'm really happy with the final result. I did come back with a little bit more of that Pallid Witch kind of stippling to, again, recolor some of the, I don't know, sandy debris type area. And hopefully it kind of brings that all together. You can see I did use a Q-tip here I got a little bit on Karlach. I didn't remove that. It is what it is. But that kind of sandy color back to it. And then I thought it needed just a little bit of pop of a little bit of a brighter color. So I brought in some dirty down moss. This actually took a few applications before I finally got it to the point where I thought it was done and good. But overall, really happy with how this turned out. I love this model. I love this final result. I hope you enjoy it as well. Thank you so much for spending the time with me today. I actually do have a video already primed up to come out next week. And then I've got a big video coming out hopefully the week after, but it may be delayed by another week. There's a lot to this next video. I hope you have a great day. Take your meds, drink some water, and as I'm about to apply the black around the base of the rim here, get ready for the final shot.